Hi everyone, I'm Wendy, and today I'm showing you what I'm eating while following Dr. Brooke Goldner's Goodbye Lupus Protocol. I'll be making all recipes out of her new book, Goodbye Lupus, Hello Delicious. Before I get into that, I'll start with a description of what Goodbye Lupus is and how it differs from her other protocols. Then I'll show you what I'm eating, and finally I'll give you my review of her new book. As always, I'll put chapter links so that you can jump around to the different sections and find what you're looking for. So let's get right to it. First, let's clarify who the Goodbye Lupus Protocol is for. It's called Goodbye Lupus because lupus just happens to be the disease that Dr. Goldner had suffered from herself, and she was able to reverse it using this protocol. But this protocol is intended for anyone trying to heal from any autoimmune diseases or other chronic diseases like diabetes or heart disease. To follow the protocol, we have to start with understanding what hyper-nourishment is. I have another video where I cover all the details of hyper-nourishment, which is the foundation of all of Dr. Goldner's protocols. So if you want all of the details as well as answers to the most common questions, check out that video, but I'll briefly summarize it here. Hyper-nourishment is about adding healing foods to your regular whole food plant-based diet. There are three parts: hyper-nourishing veggies, omega-3s, and water. You'll want to include 1 pound of raw hyper-nourishing veggies, specifically cruciferous vegetables or spinach and Swiss chard, a half a cup of ground chia or flax seeds, and a minimum of 96 ounces of water. If you're hyper-nourishing, that's it. There are no other specific restrictions. The hyper-nourishment protocol is intended for anyone who is simply trying to maintain good health. Now, if you have a chronic health condition, that's where you would move on to the Goodbye Lupus Protocol. The Goodbye Lupus Protocol is a fully raw diet. So in addition to eating the pound of raw vegetables, half a cup of chia or flax, and 96 ounces of water, you will be eliminating all potentially inflammatory foods. So that means no animal products, including meat, dairy, and eggs, no oils with the exception of cold-pressed and refrigerated flaxseed oil. I talk about the potential reasons you might want to include flaxseed oil in the first video, so check that out if you want more information. So what do you eat on the Goodbye Lupus Protocol? Basically, you just eat more of the hyper-nourishing foods. You can eat as much as you need to feel satiated. Many people seem to get confused on this point. They think that they just need to eat the hyper-nourishing foods, but if you only ate that, you probably wouldn't be getting enough calories. If you think about it, vegetables have a very low calorie density. In fact, they're only 100 calories per pound. So if you were only eating that 1 pound of vegetables, that's just 100 calories. Now, of course, you're getting more calories from the flax and chia seeds, but you want to be sure that you're eating plenty of food to make sure you are feeling satisfied. Dr. Goldner often talks about how people ask her what do they do if they're still hungry after drinking their smoothie. Her answer is to drink another smoothie. So basically, that's all you need to do. Continue to eat more of the hyper-nourishing foods and you'll be all set. And just a quick note about smoothies. People tend to associate smoothies with Dr. Goldner's protocol, but you don't have to drink smoothies to follow the protocol. If you prefer to eat all of the vegetables, that's completely fine. You can eat salads, you can simply eat the vegetables and make vegetable dips and eat it however you like. The only other restriction on the Goodbye Lupus Protocol is about fruit. Dr. Goldner recommends limiting fruit to as little as possible. So if you're making smoothies, you usually would want to do a ratio of about 75% or more vegetables and about 25% or less fruit. This is simply because in Dr. Goldner's experience working with thousands of patients, she's seen the best results with those who eat little fruit. But this is very individual. Some people can get away with eating more fruit, and for some people, any amount of fruit stops or slows the healing process. So if you're not getting the results you want while still consuming fruit, Dr. Goldner recommends reducing the fruit intake down to 0 for the fastest recovery possible. So this is the protocol I'll be following today. A minimum of 1 pound of vegetables, half a cup of seeds, at least 96 ounces of water, and a limited amount of fruit. Finally, I'll briefly cover the Goodbye Autoimmune Protocol and Rapid Recovery. The Goodbye Autoimmune Protocol is the next step if Goodbye Lupus isn't giving you the results you want quickly enough. The Goodbye Autoimmune Protocol is exactly the same as Goodbye Lupus in terms of the foods that you're eating. However, you'll be adding additional work on top of that for your mental and physical well-being. This includes things like meditating, exercising, making sure you're getting adequate sleep, and reducing stress. Finally, rapid recovery is not a protocol in and of itself. That's simply the term used for people who work directly with Dr. Goldner and her husband Thomas Tadlock. In Rapid Recovery, you're following the Goodbye Autoimmune Protocol, but you have Dr. Goldner and her team working directly with you to make sure you're doing everything right. This would be either a 6-week group program or a 4-week one-on-one program with Dr. Goldner. People often get confused about the 6 weeks, and they think that 6 weeks is the amount of time that they should heal from their autoimmune disease. However, 6 weeks is just the amount of time you would work with Dr. Goldner in this group program. But the amount of time it takes to heal is very individual. It'll depend on what kind of autoimmune condition you have, how long you've had it, and how strictly you follow the protocol. So some people may be able to heal on the Goodbye Autoimmune Protocol in 6 weeks, but for others, it might take several months. If you feel like it's taking longer than it should, that would be a good time to try out Dr. Goldner's Rapid Recovery Group. So now that you understand the basics, I'll show you a little bit of my daily routine, and of course, what I'm eating today. Before breakfast, I always like to try to do a little bit of yoga. But recently, there was about a month and a half where I got out of this habit. But the last couple of weeks, I've been able to get back into my routine, and it really helps me just to stretch out my body in the morning and to help mentally prepare for the day. Sometimes I only do 5 to 10 minutes, but usually it's somewhere around 15 to 20. And then after that, I'll have my breakfast. I'm going to start my day off with a berry cauliflower smoothie from Dr. Goldner's new recipe book. If you want to ensure that you're getting your full pound of cruciferous vegetables each day, it would be a good idea to get a kitchen scale. I like to take my kitchen scale and put a bowl on top and then zero that out so that you're just weighing the food that you put in the bowl. So of course for this smoothie, I'll be weighing my cauliflower. And since I'm making recipes out of Dr. Goldner's book, of course I won't be telling you exactly what I'm putting in here, but obviously this berry cauliflower smoothie will have berries as well as the cauliflower, and also I'm getting some of my chia seeds for the day in this smoothie. There are also a few other optional spices, so I'll add those in as well. Alright, I have made spinach smoothies, kale smoothies, and even cabbage smoothies, but I've never had a cauliflower smoothie, so let's see how this one is. That's actually really nice. It's very thick because it has the chia seeds in there, so it kind of thickened up, but it's very nice and creamy. I like it. So I'm putting on some layers because after eating my cold smoothie, I'm getting a little chilly. But I wanted to show you these really cool leg warmers that my mom made for me. So I'm gonna put these on and get warm. And it's not just the smoothie that made me cold, it is 8 degrees Fahrenheit outside with a wind chill of -9. I'm glad my mom is so crafty because I love these leg warmers. She also makes these really neat slippers. I have several pairs in different colors, and I always wear them around the house in the wintertime to keep me nice and warm. After finishing my smoothie, I went ahead and prepared the rest of the food that I plan to eat today. I'm starting with a Gazpacho soup recipe from Dr. G's book. If you're not familiar with it, Gazpacho is basically a cold soup. And this recipe includes some ingredients like tomatoes and cucumbers, which, depending on who you ask, could be considered a fruit or a vegetable. And this is an important question since on the Goodbye Lupus Protocol, Dr. G recommends limiting fruit. However, you'll be happy to know that these are considered vegetables on this protocol. So tomatoes, cucumbers, zucchini, anything like that that's kind of questionable as to whether it's a fruit or a vegetable, they're considered vegetables for this protocol. So once I had that soup all blended up, I went ahead and put it in the fridge to chill until I was ready to eat it. Next, I'm making the Broccomoli recipe from the book. As you can probably guess by that name, it's basically a guacamole that uses broccoli. So I'll start by weighing my broccoli. Once again, it's a good idea to weigh your hyper-nourishing vegetables just to make sure you get your full pound. And this recipe includes avocados. And of course, you always get the surprise, is it a good avocado or not? This one was all right. It's got a couple of brown spots, but it'll still do. This is another common question about what is allowed or not on the protocol, and avocados are allowed in unlimited portions. While Dr. G's protocols emphasize the omega-3 fats from flax and chia seeds, in her experience, avocados have also been just fine. Avocados actually have a large proportion of omega-9, as well as some omega-3s and omega-6s. The key thing to remember on this protocol is you want to limit omega-6 fats. So that's why you eliminate all other kinds of oils other than flaxseed oil, and you also wouldn't be consuming any other kinds of nuts and seeds other than the flax and chia seeds. So even though things like walnuts, almonds, pumpkin seeds, hemp seeds, they're all healthy foods, But according to Dr. Goldner, if you're on this healing protocol, you want to minimize those omega-6 fats as much as possible. And these kinds of nuts and seeds have a little bit more omega-6 than omega-3. But many people will be happy to know that, like I said, avocados are fair game. I'm planning to eat this later, so once again, I'm popping that in the fridge and moving on to my next recipe. As I'm preparing all my food, I'm also working on my water intake. As I mentioned earlier, the protocol recommends a minimum of 96 ounces of water. I like to use mason jars, and I usually fill them up about 3/4 of the way full, which would be 24 ounces. I'm already halfway through this second jar, so I'm at about 32 ounces for the day. The next one I wanted to try was supposed to be collard wraps. However, the grocery store was all out of collard greens. So instead, I decided to use Swiss chard leaves. Although Swiss chard is not a cruciferous vegetable, it is one of the healing foods that Dr. G includes in her protocol. So since Swiss chard leaves are nice and large, I thought those would work just perfectly as a substitute for collard wraps. This recipe also uses some avocado mixed with some other ingredients to make a nice spread, and then it includes various other vegetables for the filling. These Swiss chard leaves were so large, I actually ended up ripping them in half and just making little rolls. After I got done wrapping all of them though, I realized I had these little pea shoots that I wanted to add in. But it's no big deal, I can unwrap them and add them in. By the time I finished making this, it was about time to eat, so I'm gonna go ahead and eat these wraps with some of that gazpacho that I made earlier. All right, time to try my soup. I don't think I've ever actually had gazpacho before, so I'm not sure what to compare it to, but let's see how it is. This soup is really nice and refreshing, and the garlic and onion in there packs a lot of flavor. Now it's time to give these wraps a try. So let's see if I can do this without making a huge mess. These wraps are really good too, so I'm gonna go sit down and eat the rest of my food, and I'll catch you later. I am not exactly a fan of exercise, but I do like to stay healthy and fit, so I always try to get some activity in every day. I like to choose activities that don't feel like exercise. So today I did some yoga. I've always enjoyed doing yoga because it's a fun form of exercise for me. And in addition to being good for my body, it also helps me to de-stress. Sometimes I follow videos and sometimes I just make up my own flow, which is what I did here today. I ended up doing just about 15 minutes of yoga, but I'll speed it up here so you can see the whole flow. For dinner, I'm eating the broccomoli, and I just got a bunch of different vegetables to dip in it, and then I also still had a couple Swiss chard leaves, so I spread some of the broccomoli in there and added some shredded carrots. I also had some of the soup from earlier left over, so I'm eating some of that with it as well. This is not a recipe from the book, this is just something I made up. I wanted some chia pudding, so I'm adding some frozen cherries, about 2 tablespoons of ground chia seeds. If you want them to count towards the hyper-nourishment, you need to grind the chia seeds. If you prefer to use the whole chia seeds, you can do that, but they just won't count towards the hyper-nourishment. Then I added a little bit of vanilla powder, cinnamon, and some almond milk. I'll set that aside for a bit so the chia seeds absorb all the extra liquid. Here I'm showing you the cauliflower nice cream, and this one was not my favorite. It's not bad, I think it's just the texture. There wasn't quite enough volume in my blender to get it to blend really smooth, so maybe if I had done a double batch, I would have been able to get it blending a little better. Because the flavor's pretty good, it's just the texture that's a little off. In addition to water, you can drink herbal teas on the Goodbye Lupus Protocol. Now, this doesn't count towards your 96 ounces of water, but you can drink the herbal tea in addition to that water. Since it's so cold here today, I decided to have a cup of lemon ginger tea to help me warm up. I'm also taking vitamin D and B12. Both are supplements that Dr. G recommends for everyone. By the end of the day, I ended up having well over the pound of cruciferous vegetables. I had about 24 ounces instead of just 16. I had almost exactly 96 ounces of water plus the herbal tea that I drank, and I had about a 1/4 cup of flax and chia seeds. but I'm not used to eating that much flax and chia. I usually only have about 1 or 2 tablespoons in a day, so I didn't want to upset my gut too much today, so I'm happy with my 1/4 cup. If you're also not used to getting that much fiber, I recommend slowly ramping up your flax and chia. Since I don't normally eat this way, I was also curious to see what my nutrition looked like, so I plugged everything into Cronometer. For my first day of eating fully raw, I think I did pretty well. I ended up eating about 1,800 calories. Like I mentioned earlier, vegetables have such low calorie density that you have to eat a lot to make sure you're getting adequate calories. Normally, I eat about 2,200 calories in a day, but I'm pretty happy with 1,800. I did end up eating a lot more fat than I usually do, but overall, I think my macro ratios look pretty good. And as you can see, all of the micronutrients look great. All of the vitamins and minerals are well over the RDA. If you're following any of Dr. Goldner's protocols, I definitely recommend her new recipe book. All of the recipes that I tried today were delicious and easy to make. Plus, there are tons of other recipes to choose from. There's several more smoothie ideas, all kinds of different salads to choose from, and there's all kinds of other delicious recipes like zucchini noodle marinara, raw tacos. There's also a bunch of different snacks to choose from, all kinds of salad dressings and dips, and of course, some sweet treats to try out. Even if you're not following any of her protocols, but you're just trying to incorporate more raw food, these are some great recipes that you could add to your diet. If you enjoyed seeing what I ate today, I'd appreciate it if you gave this video a thumbs up. Feel free to leave your questions and comments below, and as always, I recommend checking with your doctor before changing your diet. Especially if you're on medications, anytime someone switches to a whole food plant-based diet or one of Dr. Goldner's protocols, oftentimes they have to come down off of those medications pretty quickly, so it's a good idea to keep your doctor in the loop. Thanks for sticking with me to the end of the video. If you're still watching, I wanted to mention one other thing. This isn't my normal diet. Usually I include cooked foods as well, but I really had a lot of fun trying a totally raw diet today, and I'll definitely try this out if I ever see any of my ulcerative colitis symptoms coming back. Before switching to a whole food plant-based diet, I suffered with ulcerative colitis, and I was pretty lucky because just switching to a regular whole food plant-based diet was enough to reverse my symptoms. And I actually didn't even know about Dr. Goldner at the time, but if I did, I definitely would have given it a try. So if you're suffering from any kind of autoimmune or other chronic conditions, I definitely recommend checking with your doctor and then trying Dr. Goldner's protocols. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Hi everyone, I'm Wendy, and today Dr. Brooke Goldner's Goodbye Lupus Protocol. Goodbye Lupus Protocol.